Dr. Maya, you're finally here. I really wanted to call you doctor, by the way. I know I just call you Maya as my friend, but I feel like you earned that title. Actually, the interview the week before or after you, I forget what order they're in, but a newer acquaintance, Dr. Catherine Lawson, I did this in the beginning too. I'm like, I'm going to be calling you doctor, whether you like it or not.
Well, I have a complicated relationship at times with being a doctor. So it's very interesting because I'm, I'm someone who I really believe in like being able to include all the parts of yourself
Yeah,
with open arms. And you would think that the more mystical parts of myself, which used to be harder for me to embrace in my more conventional life, were the hard things. But actually, it's been really an interesting conversation between me and my doctor self, right? How does that part of me um, does that part of me still belong? And very recently, in fact, I've had a little bit of a epiphany where I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Like, why would I think otherwise? But it is more complicated than you might think.
totally. I mean, I think everything is, of course, going to be intricate, complex, and complicated. And I think this is probably why we get along so well, because that's what we love talking about. So I'm opening this season, and actually, I think you're the last person I'm interviewing before summer break. So you'll probably be the last person I ask this question to in 2022. We'll see. Um, it's kind of a three-pronged question. What I'm really interested in is, what do you call God? How do you relate to God? Like, what's your current relationship to God? And how do you commune with God? And I know some of this about you, but the people don't know. So, and I toss it out because they're the way those things are connected and related. Take it however you want to take it.
Yeah. Well, and I think that this will probably unfold and unfurl over our conversation because it's not a glib kind of answer. But I think the shortest answer and the jumping off point for me is I see God or a creator as this actually creative force um, and sacredness, and really like what I call the unnameable.
Mm,
And so, not really something I can or think I even should put into words, but my relationship with that sacredness, that divine, that unnameable, for me is in every part of me, in everything around me, in everything I do, in every action I take. Um, and I see my job, my role in that as having the eyes and the heart to see and recognize the sacredness in the mundane. To me, I think of Wendell Berry. I hope I don't butcher his beautiful quote, but he said, there are no unsacred places, there
mm,
are only sacred places or desecrated places.
ooh, 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 ooh.
So, for me, it's like, okay, like if everything is sacred, then it's just about recognizing and tending to that, honoring that in virtually everything you do, right? Not like, oh, right now I'm working out, and right now I'm, making dinner for my kids or whatever. It's like, no, like each moment, everything I do, every breath I take, I'm not always successful in having that level of
Right.
awareness and intention, I will say. But yeah.
I love that because it reminds me, and I don't remember whose quote this is at all, or if it even gets attributed appropriately anywhere, but it's like, we can live as if nothing is a miracle or as if everything is a miracle. And these simple little adjustments I have found to actually be life changing, so liberating, because otherwise I was raised by like very cynical, untrusting people. And I could really hate everything if I wanted to.
Yeah. Well, I grew up with, mainly with one parent, and, she worships money. So
Yeah.
I definitely, she thinks I'm kind of stupid because I don't, like, I'm weak because I don't make my whole life around money, and
Yeah.
So it's interesting. And I actually literally, it's so funny, this week had a conversation with one of my spiritual teachers about that. She was like, you know, we always have the material and the spiritual like in the pot, right? And
Yes.
it's like, how do we navigate that? And you really want to be careful, especially when you are a person who's operating in the spiritual and very consciously so, because we have to make money, we have to live in the material
Yeah.
world, all of that. But if we become too harnessed to the worship of money, which easily can happen. I feel like I see it happening all the time in the entrepreneurial world, in the spiritual world,
In
etc.
every world, like that's dragging down this whole fucking planet.
Well, right, but it's just because we're not. It's not because money has to be bad. It's because
Right.
we're not, because too many people worship money, actually,
Yeah.
you know. And so I don't think it was any accident, as much as it has been a challenging relationship for me to be in such a close relationship with someone who does value money as one of the top most important things. I feel like it's no accident, right, that we have that sort of challenge or conundrum presented to us on a silver platter in that way. And then it's like, okay, how are you going to navigate this?
Totally. I love that this is something that has sparked up right in the beginning of the conversation, because just this morning, one of my favorite astrologers, so those of you listening, I don't always put a formal bio in the intro because I usually just record what I'm excited about that we talked about. It will be on the show notes page. But Dr. Maya is, I mean, all the things that you are. I don't know that you actually call yourself a shaman, but I'm going to call you a shaman, medicine woman, actual real doctor too. Like, not that medicine woman isn't real, but you know what I mean? Like, went to fucking medical school, astrologer, like you do all these amazing, different, intricate, cool things. Herbalist, right? Did I miss anything?
Um, yeah. Also, well, I'm an urban farmer, right? And I have
Urban, that's right. With the chickens and the growings of all the things.
yeah.
I met the chickens. Um, so anyway, you do all these incredible things. But so one of my favorite astrologers on Instagram, she just had a post about this today, something about manifesting. And she was like, I no longer have money goals because I just am in right relationship with abundance, like I have what I need, my needs are met. And I kind of just trust that flow to be whatever it is. And honestly, that's how I've been living too for many years. And it's hard. I actually just hired some marketing people, and they need benchmarks, like, what are we shooting for? What are we planning for? And I'm always like, oh, this is so hard for me because ultimately I don't care. Ultimately, it's going to be what it is. But I'm starting to have a relationship with planning for something, even though I'm completely not attached to it and don't need it.
Right. Right. Yeah. I think that we should get more used to in our society that thinking about the currency of feeling in alignment and being in flow and feeling satisfied or like nourished by what we're doing as currency. Like, why do our main currency is like how many followers, or how big is your email list, or how much money do you make, or what kind of house do it's like, or who do you know? It's like, actually, what if it's so much simpler? And let me say, I mean, I actually thought about this, and I sent an email out recently about this Sag moon, that there's something for me really potent in this energy of this full moon is about it's about knowing your heart's desire. Like, we so much spend time like trying to achieve and reach these things, but I find in so many of my clients, my students, and all of us, and me, honestly, I feel like I know, but then it always becomes more and more revealed with time. It's like, actually, do we really know what our heart's desire really, really is?
Girl, I love this conversation. I was talking to a friend of mine actually last night. We went to the beach to see the moon. And which, by the way, by the time this interview comes out, I think we'll probably be on the next full moon. But I was saying, I love peace. I love peace and I love space.
Mhm.
Like to me, like that is wealth and that is liberation for me in my life personally, that I can have peace. It's like, how much money do you want to make? I want to make enough money that I could have peace and I can have space, right? That I could push deadlines if I need to, or I could bump things up, or creative freedom, like peace and space. There are so many things I don't do that I say no to or that I cancel because I'm like, nope, it's fucking with my peace. I'm a no. Because I mean, how many years of my life did I spend with like little to no peace, not even realizing peace was an option, even?
That's what I was going to say is like, I think, one of the programs that I offer is all about like fun and play and spaciousness.
Yes.
And what I've discovered is that those are completely foreign concepts to most adult people, but especially women. And that idea of spaciousness is like, that's where your heart's desire lives, right? Like if you
Mhm.
want to know your heart's desire, if you want to feel that sense of peace, or if you want to engage with that playfulness, or it starts with spaciousness, and that is such wealth in my mind. But who even realizes that? Because we're running to this, we're running to that, we're taking care of this, we're signing up for that, we're saying yes to whatever, right? And it's like,
Or people are just in survival mode.
well, right, absolutely. Which is, I think that drives that
Yeah.
drives that inclination, right? Of course, it's not always something that we have the capacity to say yes or no to, but there are ways in which most of us, no matter where we're at in our lives and what's going on, we say yes to things and allow things that we need not say yes to or allow.
Totally. Oh my goodness. So, I'm actually really curious. So you recently did this, I'm going to call it a mushroom summit, but what is the proper name for it?
So it was a summit looking at how mushrooms and psychedelics can heal trauma and build resilience.
And so again, it's also really funny because I think you and Dr. Catherine, I think your interviews are going up back to back. And one of the things that she does is she's really working on a course of training. Actually, I sent you something about this to help prepare people before and integrate after psychedelic journeys. So less about like leading and facilitating, but like the before and after, which I so love hearing people talk about that, because I think so many people just want to like dive in for a peak experience with no prep, which I did that a couple of years ago by accident when I had my accidental journey and I ate a chocolate in my friend's fridge. I literally had like a burrito on my way up to San Francisco, and a couple hours later, ate that mushroom chocolate by accident. But so I was not prepared.
Right, right. Well, and so many people aren't, I mean, how many people of of the people who have engaged with psychedelics, whether it's LSD or mushrooms or whatever, how many of those people, engaged in their teens in
Right.
some basement or like, Central Park or God knows where, whatever,
In the
right?
forest,
And
just the miscellaneous forest.
so yeah, so actually I also have a program like that where it's just a deep dive into all the science, all the cutting edge science around OCD, addiction, major depression, anxiety. Like there's actually incredible science right now
That's cool.
that is mind blowing. Like truly having one dose, one macro dose, with the appropriate support before, during, after, right? The preparation and integration is, I would argue, as important as
Mhm.
the journey itself. But seeing that one dose can basically eliminate alcohol addiction, or in a durable way, meaning they're checking a year later, et cetera, right? Cigarettes, looking at eating disorders, sexual trauma. I mean, it's even dementia, autoimmunity. Like the possibilities there are so profound. The science is so profound. And then what I share also is this sacred elements. And because I've grown these medicines myself and I have worked with indigenous teachers for a long time, I also incorporate that because I feel like that part of it is not always as discussed as it could and should be, especially in this kind of medicalization of those.
Right. Yeah, this is amazing. And I actually had a facilitated experience coming up on Saturday. It'll actually be a month ago, like real space held for me, like you said, before, during, aftercare. And it's just so incredible. And I'm hearing more and more of friends, colleagues, people I know are having experiences right now, specifically with mushrooms. And it just feels like the mushrooms are coming to help us. Like, you people need something.
Yeah, we do.
It feels like our mystical allies are like, okay, let's show you people beyond just, like you said, what you might have stumbled into in your teens or your 20s or whatever, what an intentional experience might look like, which is amazing. You and I on Voxer, I don't know if I think Voxer or Instagram, I can't remember which it was, the other day, there was something that like randomly came up, and I was so excited to dive into this with you about like spirituality and like fitness and exercise. What you mentioned, you didn't really start working out till your 40s, you said, right?
Yeah, so I like rode crew in high school for a brief amount of time, and then more or less was pretty physically inactive, I would say, until I turned 42, my Uranus opposition. And so I was dealing with like big transformation in my life. And at that time, like, I was like, I don't even know what to do. I feel like I'm literally have lightning in my veins and I need to do something. So I started running every day. Actually lost like 35 pounds at that time. I started lifting heavy weights. I started boxing. So I was in a pretty, up until the pandemic, I was in a pretty assertive workout routine. And it was really, really interesting. I mean, I'll say a few things. One is I discovered my astrology around that same time when I was 42, that I have a complicated Mars in my chart. In many ways, it's very strong, but it's in my 12th house, which is it's kind of where your garbage heap is. It's not really garbage, but it's like what feels like garbage and where you kind of have to mine your gifts, right? But it's like kind of called the house of self-undoing, among other things. And so that Mars, like I really need to, I would think about it like this, like I need to nurture that Mars. I need to give it really good, healthy outlets so it doesn't blow up in my face in some way of self-undoing. So that was like one way that I mean, that's not why I started doing this, but it happens to be, I always have it in the back of my mind when I'm like, I don't really want to work out today. I'm like, actually, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this for my Mars. But
I love that. It's like, I love that because I love tying, I feel like fitness, exercise, health, weight loss, if that's what it's about for some people, has, it's almost like shamed these days on a level as we try to undo all, the systems and the phobias and all the things. And I've certainly, this has messed with my own relationship with exercise. It's like, why are you doing it? Yeah. And so I love when there's a reason, and even me this year, getting back into lifting as well. I had really gotten back into it in 2019. And then obviously the pandemic comes in. I need a gym. I'm not a home workout person. Like, and unlike you, I mean, I've been working out since I was 12. Mm-hmm. I just loved, there were so many things about like fitness and working out. And my dad was always really fit. So basically, as soon as I could pick up some like purple dumbbells that my mom had that were like 5 pounds and get some abs of steel VHSs and stuff, I was working out. And, but during the pandemic, that went away. But the thing that really actually motivated me, reignited it for me, was I've also really gotten back into salsa dancing, and you just dance so much better with a better core, and actually being in heels doesn't bother my lower back when like my core is strong, my legs are strong, like my posture is better, my balance is better. So I'm like, I got to do this for dance. And that just made it so much easier to get back into it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's interesting. I'm sort of backing into dance the other way. So I realized that I was in a place where I wasn't having as much fun, and I'd been dealing with an injury from running for the past like year and a half through the pandemic, which was pretty bad timing. And since I couldn't go to the gym here, and I started to say, like I actually recently was like, I think I want to start dancing because I need to do more stretching and more pelvic work because that's where I hold a lot of tension. And so I was like, I'm going to learn to twerk. So I will spend
Yes.
a couple hours on the weekends and a few days of the week. Like I just have dance parties basically for myself. Eventually I might actually stray into more public arenas, but, and I just like sit and like, I'm like learning all these kinds of, I don't know. I mean,
are you watching any tutorials? Like, where are you learning how to twerk?
of course I go on tutorials. I was like, who can I find that will be able to give me twerking lessons? In Miami, yeah. I know you can get twerking lessons.
I've literally been to a twerking class since I got here.
But here in New York City, not as easy, although I found a little bit. But yeah, and it's been incredible. Actually, like, so then if I go for a run, I, basically discovered I have very little pain, right? But also, I'm a really deep believer. I mean, as a neurologist and as a human and in my medicine work, in the whole idea of neuroplasticity. And a lot of this idea, which I know you and I have discussed, of the kind of as within, so without, as above, so below, right? So if I want to be strong going through whatever harrowing life / spiritual travails I may go through, and I do, at times, that feel big and difficult. If I'm lifting heavy weights and, deadlifting 200 and something pounds, it makes me feel more like I can manage the big spiritual shit that's happening, So for one thing, and the other piece is sort of that plasticity, right? If I want my life to become bigger and better and more nourishing to me, then I need to learn new things. So like now I'm exploring like, okay, what martial art do I want to start doing? Because I feel ready for my boxing gym closed during the pandemic. And I haven't really found something else where I can do that kind of work. And I'm like, oh, so interesting that on the one hand, I'm like, I want to do weapons work in martial arts. And on the other side, I'm like, I want to twerk and do like, erotic dance. Like, it's like, I need to really balance that like masculine and feminine energy within myself. And I think we all need that.
I pulled this up. Do you follow this woman on Instagram? I think it's like Nastia. It's Nastya. She's literally 7.7 million followers. Twerk icon is what she actually comes in. Like she does tours and teaches classes. I think she had a baby and she's still just like twerking her fucking ass up. It's so great. It's it's her videos. Like it looks like her butt cheeks can move independent of each other. It's so amazing.
It's a thing. It's harder. I was like, I'm going to learn how to twerk. And then I was like,
it's way harder than you would think.
Freaking difficult. Like actually, I think I'm a pretty good dancer. Like naturally that like my body likes moving and all of that. And I love rhythm and music, but like twerking has been a mission. Like it's become a mission.
No joke. Do you remember the first time you ever saw somebody twerk?
No, actually I would say like, I was just probably like, but
I was in the 6th grade at a school dance. I'll never forget it. And it was like literally legs up on the wall and everything.
Wow.
Gotta love growing up on Staten Island. I love this. So, and this piece about my friend, do you know Jill Coleman?
Mm-mm.
My friend Jill, I love the way she talks about, she lifts weights and I actually do Jilly's workouts are my favorite workouts, for like over a decade now. And I just started her Physique 40 program. And I was like, literally 3 days ago, like, when you're sore everywhere because you just are getting back into things, but it feels so amazing. And I like how she talks about like lifting as a pathway to your personal power, and I think you and I have talked about this before. I really didn't know I had trauma, which is hilarious because I literally have complex PTSD until like late in my 20s, maybe not even really until after I turned 30. And part of it is because like I said, I just always worked out. It is so regulating for my system. I was somehow all these feelings, all these sensitivities I have, all this stuff. I'm going to put fine in air quotes. But I could have been a much messier person. And I wasn't because I worked out 4 to 6 days a week religiously from I played sports in high school, but then once I went to college and had like a fitness center, Truly, from like 19 to 29.
Mm-hmm.
Very rare that there wasn't a week of my life where I was working out 4 to 6 days a week. And I haven't been in a rhythm like that. I got back in the groove for like 3 days a week in 2019. And the intensity too. One of my mentors, when I was doing a bunch of training in 2016 and 2017 in energy medicine, was like, you need to do an hour of intense exercise a day. And I did not listen. And it totally makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many levels, like on a physical level, even beyond the weight loss and all of that is just like moving your lymphatics,
Yep.
taking the deep breaths and oxygenating. Like it's so like, I think going back to what you said about all the all the narratives that have been put on especially women exercising, but I'm sure it's true for men too, of needing to be fit or thin or this or that. And like, so there's a lot of baggage around it. So that if I recommend it to people, there's like all this sort of
Totally
anxiety that comes up, but really it's so, and it can be literally putting on music you love and like blasting it and just dancing, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm going and lifting weights. For me,
yeah.
Lifting weights was a very boundary bursting kind of experience back at the time I was married. I was nearing the end of my 25-year marriage. And, I went to start lifting weights, which I had so many feelings about going to a gym. I was like, oh, like, I don't want to go to a gym. I'm not into that thing. I don't like, et cetera, et cetera. Lifting weights, I was like, that, I don't know what to do, et cetera, right? The whole thing. And I do credit CrossFit. Whatever issues are around CrossFit for a lot of people, the CrossFit gyms really made, I think, weightlifting accessible to women in ways that maybe prior it was less of a thing, like heavy lifting, powerlifting, and so on. And that was where I found a trainer, and I started lifting and progressed really quickly. Like, it turns out my body's really made to do that. I'm not like I need to be the best or the, et cetera. But
we're not going to find you at the CrossFit Games next year.
No, definitely no. But it gave me, first of all, this incredible sense of power, strength, confidence. And interestingly, my now ex was saying, oh, your arms are going to be bigger than mine, or, your muscles are going to be bigger than mine, or you're going to be, and it wasn't just him, other people, women were like, you're going to be this, you're going to be that, or, be careful, you're going to get bulky, or all this crap. And I was like, I want to be bulky. Like, I don't care. I want to lift heavy things. Like, it was just like this really amazing time for me of like blowing up a lot of narratives around femininity and women. And like, I'm supposed to have little skinny arms, which I've never had, no matter what my weight was, no matter, what my age was. I always had strong arms and strong upper body. Like, my family are Amazigh, Moroccan, they're people who carry things on their backs and shoulders and heads. Like, I come from that indigenous lineage on my dad's side. And I think like when I started lifting heavy things, it like activated my epigenetics. I was like, here, you're connected to your ancestors. You're connected to your dad's family. You're connected to your indigenous lineage. And like, actually, not coincidentally, I developed a lot of awareness around that indigenous lineage beginning around that time.
That's cool.
Very shameful in my family. No one talks about that indigenous lineage because that was something that, they felt held them back.
This is amazing. Okay. There's a couple different threads here that I want to pull. Let's go to, so this is interesting. I was having some feelings. I have to, you've seen some of my posts about gaining weight over the years, and especially so during the pandemic. I love being voluptuous. That is something like when I look back at pictures of myself in my 20s, I mean, I've always like this ass and these titties have always been a thing. But when I was super fit, they were just, I don't know. It's funny because when I look back at pictures, I'm like, damn, my titties were so small. They were still double D's. Now they're just like G's or H's, which I don't know is like 5 or 6 D's if we want to go on that scale. But there is something about the softness that I do love. And when I start working out again, I'm always a little like, oh, but I don't want to go back to being ripped. And the thing is, at this point, I'm probably not going to, like, I'm 38, not 18 or 28, but I am curious, but kind of like what you were saying, I just feel like, it feels really liberating to not be connected to what my body is going to look like and more be connected to how I want to feel, that I want to be strong, have good balance, be using my energy in this way, processing just life through this outlet that just happens to be very good for my body in a million different ways. And I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that. And then I do also just want to pause for a second and just acknowledge, like, I know we're having this very able-body centered conversation. And so, anyone listening, this is something that we're talking about, and, whatever might be your access point into this is, I just want to acknowledge that in case some people are sitting there like, I can't do any of this shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah. So I'll answer the first thing and then also touch on the second thing. From the standpoint of just, I think for many of us, I'll say in general, probably, I think it's for all of us, because we all live in this society where body image is so front and center, and expectations around that and so on. And I certainly find that in the health and wellness world, where, there's just a lot of certainly ableism and, fatphobia, et cetera. I would never take advice from someone who, it's like,
right,
literally serious. Like, there's so many narratives that are incredibly prejudiced and just wrong, in my opinion.
Right. Rooted in so much ignorance, because they don't realize, like, someone's body looking a certain way doesn't necessarily mean all these actual, like, physical markers are or aren't happening.
Well, and interestingly, if you look at, like, the research of, I think, Sabrina Strings, like, she reading her book, which is all about how fatness is very racialized and comes from, like, racism, essentially. Mm-hmm. I ended up looking at a lot of the scientific literature, and it turns out actually having a higher BMI to a certain point is protective. So we, like, being what they call mildly obese, whatever that's supposed to mean.
Right.
Not that BMI was even ever supposed to be used as it's being used, but it actually turns out that's protective. It's protective for lifespan. It's protective for a lot of conditions, medical conditions, etc. So blah, blah, blah. I mean, there's just a lot of BS that floats out there. And, like, but beyond that, I love being kind of, as my spiritual teacher used to call it, juicy. I like having a voluptuous body. I feel fine with that. And I feel happy about it. I mean, I feel very celebratory of it. It's sucky kind of going back to that, like, the spiritual and the material. It's sort of this, like, I feel very celebratory of what I have in my body generally, because I feel this sacredness around it. Like, and it's annoying at times that, like, I'm like, what a total fucking inconvenience and, like, irritating thing that there's all these narratives that get thrown and all these projections put on all of us when we have these sacred, beautiful containers. Mm-hmm. Containers we get to, like, operate in. Yes, some are more able than others. Some are more socially acceptable. Blah, all of that is true. And it reminds me, actually, if I can tell this story, like, the first time I went to Ecuador on this trip, and it was mostly women on this trip. We were in Ecuador for 3 weeks studying with this, fourth generation curandera. And we were traveling around the country. And at one point, she had us in this mud area along the Amazon, okay? And everyone took off their clothes and had to kind of rub themselves in this special blue mud. And I just remember I was pretty straight at that time now I'm not straight in several ways, but I was pretty straight coming from a pretty conventional background in medicine and whatever. And this was one of my first kind of big trips doing the kind of spiritual work that, I've come to do all of the time. And but I remember just looking up and seeing, because I was sort of one of the last people covering my bag to make sure if it rained, it wouldn't get, all the bullshit. And I look and I see like 25 or so women all standing naked, every size, every shape, everything, able, not able. I'm just the whole gamut. And I just remember like, it sort of felt like this divine energy, just seeing like, I was like, oh my God, like we are beautiful. Why do we spend any time hating ourselves or being
any? Yeah. I love this. And I know straight, not straight means a lot of different things for you in your life. This is a super personal question. So I don't know if you want to answer it or not. Feel free to skip it. What you were saying something earlier when you were mentioning being with your ex. I'm curious how body image everything felt. Was there any difference being in a, relationship with a man versus now being in a relationship with a woman, how you felt about or saw or experienced your own body?
I mean, the answer is yes, and it's so much to unpack. And I'll try to answer at least somewhat.
Cool.
I'm very blessed that my partners have always loved my body, no matter what size I was. And I never felt any negative energy coming at me from my partners in my lifetime. And I would say my experience of being, I could really go on and on about the experience of being in a relationship with a woman and my experience of it, I should say, because it is something very liberating, or it was for me very, very liberating, just sort of being in this like celebration of my own body with someone who is similar to me in a certain way, and the level of acceptance and the level of just like being able to dive into, I don't know, like it really is just a celebration of the feminine and of like that sacredness. I would almost say there are like no words to describe that. It's so different, which doesn't diminish, what I had, or what anyone can have in a, heterosexual relationship, obviously. But it was so interesting to me. It really, being in a relationship with a woman and with the woman that I'm in a relationship with was incredibly liberating and freeing, and just created a container for me to find my own confidence. I would say, so it's not like I got confidence from, but it was like so many things were sort of taken out of the equation and off the table that I didn't even know had been there.
That's cool.
And then just the level of like acceptance and I will say in the non-straight world, because in the heteronormative world, like there are, not for everyone, but there are a lot of kind of expectations.
Yeah.
That was my experience of it. Okay. And, me needing to be feminine, what does feminine mean?
Right.
There was this whole really unexplored, not like I didn't exercise that masculine nature that I have, or like balance that in certain ways, but there were a lot of ways, to the point of like the lifting weights, or boxing or, that I didn't really get to experiment with or embody in the ways that I might have wanted to, or in the fullness of how I wanted to, because there are expectations, right? Like you're a wife, you're a woman, you're a this, right? Like this is sort of how are you supposed to be? And then I was in a relationship that was also part of the, observant Jewish world. So that had a lot of also its own projections incorporated into it. So I found that what I found for myself also around body image and around how I could embody the fullness of who I was, there's no rules in kind of the non-straight world, right? In the queer world, it's like you can be more in your feminine self, you can be more in your masculine self. I'm not talking about gender here.
Right.
I'm talking just about like
The energy.
how we all embody that, within ourselves, no matter our gender. And there's just so little judgment around it. And that's like really fucking fun and liberating. And like, you just get to know yourself without being like, oh, but that's bad. Or what will people think if right? So that's incredible.
Yeah. What made me think about that is even one of the cool and like really fun parts for me about gaining weight has been getting to reorient my relationship with the male gaze. Cause that's just been such a like lifelong like since I was like 11, getting honked at on Victory Boulevard, walking to the deli as a friggin' sixth grader. Like, leave me alone. So part of what I'm loving about getting older and being less traditionally attractive is I get left alone a little more now. It's still, there's a full spectrum. People are still always attracted to all kinds of things, but I feel now like I get to be a little more invisible than I've ever been in my life. And it's just such a relief.
I totally get that. I had a lot of I looked like a woman very early.
Same. God.
I had lots of, when I was 13, had 18-year-olds paying attention to me.
Yes.
When I was 14, had 25-year-olds paying attention to me. So that was a very, and that made me feel very protective of myself. So I do think getting older has been that way for me too. And I'm 10 years older than you. So I'm in my late 40s. And I have to say though, for me, that I've just like my 40s have been and this has not been like my easiest decade at all, as far as, conventional trajectory. It's been ups and downs and backwards and forwards and all of the things. But, I just feel like more beautiful and sexier and just more like excited about myself, which doesn't mean I never have body image issues or that I don't get kind of sucked down that thing that
right.
we get sucked down. But, even like, and maybe part of this is that my partner is quite a bit younger than me too. And, so I feel very appreciated in my age,
Mm-hmm.
but I just, even if I look back at pictures of me, I'm like, wow, like I really love where I'm at right now. And it's not because like, I mean, I have stretch marks from having babies and probably from like weight gain and loss and, scars and this and that, like, it's not because I'm like, I have some kind of perfection thing going. It's just like,
you've lived in your body.
I just fucking love myself a lot more. And I just love, I look more and, yeah, it feels good.
That's the thing, right? Liking yourself, loving yourself. How revolutionary.
Crazy. Well, I don't even like using that word, but it is kind of unbelievable. That would be the word that I would use, is that we could be in these beautiful bodies that truly are divine, gorgeous light containers, and that we could have this struggle. And so, I just think like getting older has been, just for anybody who's on the way, like I would like to tell you that, I'm pushing 50, in the next couple of years. And I feel so much happier with who I am, including giving zero fucks about lots of things that I used to really probably perseverate about and didn't even realize, 20 years ago. I would never go back is what I'm trying to say.
Girl, never. I remember, so I'm going to be 39 this year, and I can't tell you how upset I am that I don't get to be in my 40s yet. I've been saying this so much, and I want to stop. I want to stop hating on being 39. Like, it's going to be the last year of my 30s. Like this, it's going to be an amazing year, but I just so want to be 40. I'm so like, I want to be in a new decade so bad, but I really do need to savor the last year of my 30s. But, I remember literally where I was when the clock struck midnight on my 30th birthday. And I just started like uncontrollably sobbing because I was so happy my 20s were over. and like you, like my 30s have certainly been so challenging and unconventional and all these things. I wouldn't have, back in the day before I realized that I had there were so many more things I could decide about that weren't just like this path that everyone follows. This shit is not where I would have thought I would have been or anything. And it's like 1,000 times more miraculous than anything I could have possibly imagined. And so I guess I'm just eager to get into my 40s to see like what the flavor of that's going to be for that decade. But I wouldn't go back. You couldn't pay me. I mean, for real.
Yeah, and I love what you're talking about, that like I never would have expected this to go this way or all of that. It's like, I remember when I hit 30, I remember looking back at my 20s and saying, well, I got married, I had 2 kids, and I went to medical school and blah, 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 blah. And then when I hit my 40s, I'm like, well, like I had my 3rd kid and I grew my medical practice and I wrote a book and I did, so like, and then now when I'm going to hit my 50s, I'm going to be like, well, my marriage of 25 years ended, which is actually for me, I celebrate. I'm someone who thinks endings, when we finish a soul contract with someone, if we can amicably, especially if possible, or at least peacefully transition out of a soul, out of whatever contract we have with that person because we've completed it, I feel very celebratory about that.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things like, it's like I basically walked away in certain ways, or at least transmuted my successful doctor career. And right, like there's like so many things you might look at my 40s and say, wow, like you
really burned it down.
yeah, right. Like you really fucked things up. But like, so it's interesting, right? Because this decade for me, and yet here I am like feeling, look, I mean, you've seen me in some pretty low places at times. And like, it's, it's there's ups and there's downs, but I think I had plenty of those in the other decades.
Yeah, totally.
More conventional trajectory. So no, like it couldn't be like, well, just you have yourself to blame because you were doing all the right things. And now it's like, are you doing all the right things? Well, then maybe you only have yourself to blame for
what even is right,
But I think all that complexity and up and down, I just want to say, that's like where so much magic lives. Yeah. And like we've at least for me, I'm going to speak for myself and say like it's so easy to judge the hardship or the difficult times and say I fucked up, made wrong decisions, or did I make wrong decisions? Or even though I tend to feel very guided through a lot of the things that I do that take me through these sort of hard places, but I know that that's where all the action is, right? That's like where the lessons come and the gifts come. And so like, I love being someone who's been able to make those non-traditional choices. And I love being around other people who do that and celebrate that as well, because then you don't have all that chatter, like the chatter about, well, you were supposed to, you should have, all that stuff just is like farther away,
I mean, I haven't engaged with that stuff since my late 20s. And it's always so, what's the word? It's not humbling. I was going to say like humbling, enamoring. It's something because I work with people, as I'm sure you do as well, all the time, who are, navigating that stuff hardcore. So it actually just like makes me feel like just so appreciative, like to tears, that I unhooked from that shit a long time ago. Okay. You mentioned soul contracts. Let's wrap up with this, because I don't know if you know this about me, but I love Carolyn Mace. I've basically been working myself through every single thing she's ever taught or written since last summer. I mean, many years ago, Anatomy of the Spirit, her book was really helpful for me in like 2012, but then I really didn't touch another thing of hers until last summer, 2021. And I just finished listening to Sacred Contracts, and I'm reading it now because there's always a difference between her audios and her actual physical books. And I just love understanding that there are soul contracts and basically subscribing to that. What would you call it? Like a belief, methodology, system,
I mean, I would say it's a paradigm, maybe.
Paradigm.
Yeah.
Um, honestly helps free me so much. Like when you were saying with your husband, we completed a soul contract. That was what we came to do together. And then we get to move on. Because one of the things that I see in my work, and I have struggled with before, I had these concepts in my reality. It's like being attached to, well, why didn't something work out? Why didn't it go this way? It was going down this trajectory and then it totally switched. It's like, just wasn't the contract. I don't know. That frees me so much. It also frees me when I'm seeing people behave in ways that I'm like, why the fuck is that person doing that? And then I'm like, I don't know their contract.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on over there. And so I love as a concept as or a paradigm, as you said, it is just so liberating.
Well, and I think it just helps again around all that judgment, self-judgment or confusion or whatever is to say we did together what we needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore also it can listen. Just because I can say, well, the soul contract ended, or that I can celebrate that or appreciate that, or that I can, doing it in a peaceful way and all of those things, it doesn't mean it's not excruciating sometimes. It doesn't mean
Right.
I haven't freaking cried my eyes out.
Mm.
It doesn't mean that I didn't go through all the questions and all the but why, all
Yes.
the, right? Like those things still can exist side by side with recognizing this is coming to completion. For me, I know deeply inside that I wasn't in a container in that relationship that would have allowed, or I wouldn't have felt allowed in some way to really embody the spiritual work that has been my entire 40s and will likely be the rest of my life.
I love that.
And so what, again, like it's like I couldn't have tried to maintain it because really it would have destroyed me, I think. And I did try everything I could, actually, to be honest. But I think you always have to, right? Like it's that idea of when you say yes to something, what are you saying no to? Like,
Yes.
been saying no to, if I would have in some way shoved myself back into this,
Right.
would have been like saying no to maybe like potentially 30, 40, I don't know if I'm lucky, right? Or whatever, however many more years I have, to embody something that is so much more meaningful, healing, embodying the fullness of myself, helping other people in a completely different way. So for me, it's a really important concept that I didn't actually get. I don't remember how I came to the idea of soul contracts because I don't think I read about it and I haven't read her work, but
I didn't, that's not where I first heard about it, but I love, she has a way of articulating and explaining things that just like nail it for me all the time. For anyone watching this interview, by the way, I've probably yawned like 5 times. I've just been yawning all day. The Sagittarius full moon. I can't remember if we were talking about it before or after we started recording. I know we talked about it a little, definitely, but I think you and I were just more personally reflecting on it before we started recording. This moon every year really gets me. So this is I am not bored and I'm not finding you uninteresting at all. But this is literally since this morning, I've just been yawning all day. For me, there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of things moving and processing right now. And yawning is a big way that just is indicated for me. Anything I didn't ask you that feels like a loop needs to be closed? We knew we would have a wonderful, mystical, winding conversation. But is there anything, based on what came up that you're like, ooh, I want to tie a bow on that or say this thing?
I don't think so. It's funny because we never really talked about kind of like the nature work or any of that kind of stuff, which is really a big way that I connect to spirit.
Right. Well, I thought that might come up when we were talking about how you commune with God, because if anyone follows you on Instagram, like 80% of your stories are being in nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the magic and the orbs and the light coming through the trees and everything. I love how you share that stuff.
Yeah. So no, I mean, it's sort of interesting because like I love everything we talked about and we always have such expansive kind of light-filled conversations. I love it. But yeah, I guess like that's the only piece. And for me, that's like maybe a nice way to end is just sort of like that is, to kind of close the loop on the sacredness,
Mm-hmm.
connect with God, the divine, spirit. For me, is so deeply embedded in connecting with nature, the earth, the invisible through the natural world, and that's really I think where a lot of my gifts and a lot of my appreciation and gratitude and rituals and ceremony that I do and lead are really centered and just trying to think of rooted I guess in nature. So
They're great. Yeah. So, and what's amazing, I always loved your stories for that. And then once I got to visit you last fall and actually see your woods and see your yard, and like we said, meet your chickens. When you post things, I'm like, oh, I can feel it because I've been there. So cool. So everyone, links to all the places where you can connect with Dr. Maya Shetreat will be, that's how you say it, right? Sometimes I realize I've never said something out loud before and I'm like, oh, was that right? Even though you have a name that seems pretty straightforward to just sound it out. We'll put all those links and everything in the show notes. You can follow her on Instagram. What's your Instagram?
Dr. Maya Shetreat.
It's just Dr. Maya.
Like she and treat. The two
Yeah,
words
it's really big. Maya, Maya. Yeah, go watch those nature stories. You capture some amazing stuff. So thanks. Finally, we've been trying to have this conversation for like a year.
It was fun, as I knew it would be.
Of course. All right. We'll see you later.